will be revealed. Myths dispelled.
From the studio gym where excuses never apply.
It's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. I'm being told to keep my distance from the microphone, not because I'm afraid the microphone has COVID, but apparently I have this tendency to like nuzzle with the mic, and it's too loud, and it's causing a lot of distortion for some of the people that are listening to the show online. So if I try to do this, I want you out there in the audience, go back away from the mic, Carl. It's getting too loud. Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. Today is June 9th. 2020, and we have a great show planned for you today. Today is Tuesday. We have the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish starting in just a moment. I just want to plug my title sponsor as always because I'm indebted to them, and that's Legendary Foods. EatLegendary.com, code SHR for 10% off anything you buy there, and everything that they have is worthy of your dollars. I kid you not. So go there and show them some love. Because they help make this show possible. Thank you very much to the folks at Legendary Foods. Let's go ahead and run Coach Rob's music here.
Calling all BluePrint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
How you doing, Rob?
I can barely hear you.
How about now?
Yes, much better.
Takes the audio to a couple moments to adjust on your
All right. Okay.
How are you?
I'm doing well. You're making me hungry though with the Legendary Foods thing.
This stuff is the best. I use it as dessert. I use that nut butters as dessert.
And I've heard that from so many people. It's just it's I haven't heard from a single person that says, no, that's not true, that they're really not that good. They all rave about it.
Yeah, all their products are. And that tasty pastry is a fantastic, if you want something that's kind of like a pastry, like a Pop-Tart, but you don't want to just eat a bunch of nothing that contributes to the goals of your particular macronutrients. You know what I mean? Those are your goals. Yep. I mean, they make the best products in the world. They do.
Sure sounds like it.
So we have lots of good questions today. Do you want to open with anything in particular? Do you want to talk about your hurting your back or anything like that? Or is that later in the discussion?
Yeah, well, actually, we'll get into that during the first question. I do want to thank everyone, though, that bought Synthogen, Tranquilligen. We had a big sale running up to June 1st, and I'm just very pleased with the response. So I want to say thank you, and I look forward to your feedback on those.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can reach him here at onair@superhumanradio.net if you want to send them an email. Andrew Barber. I think this is a long one. Yeah, it is. I got to get the actual document out. Hold on a second. Andrew Barber says, excuse me. He didn't say excuse me. I said that. I've heard you say that training wise, everything happens for a reason. Well, I burned out on high volume stuff a little too late. I blew my knee out. According to my doctor, this thing isn't going to heal anytime soon, and it would be best if I stopped training altogether. Is he right?
No, he's not right. And it's really unfortunate that a doctor would dispense that advice because some people, in like my father's generation, for example, think doctor equals God, right? And so they're not. And some have a really bad habit of venturing outside of their field of expertise and dispensing advice. And to be fair, I'm sure it's an easy thing to do, right? Because their doctors are used to having the answer. But this guy sounds like one that unfortunately, didn't steer you in the right direction. So let me put it this way. Let me ask you a question. Is your other knee okay? Are your chest, back, and shoulders all right? Does your grip still work? Is anything else injured? If the answer to any of those questions, right, is no, then yes, you can be training, and you should be training. And by the way, if you focus enough on it, you can make progress in every one of those areas that I just mentioned, and then some. Every single one. So let me give you an example because it's timely. Last Monday, an hour before I was supposed to deadlift, I don't know what happened, but my lower back seized up, just bad, a lot of pain. Okay. And this is right in the middle of one of my programs where I was really making great progress. So needless to say, deadlifts were out, but here's what was in: handstand push-ups, chin-ups, right? Face pulls, the ab bench, the seated trap bar overhead press. I even took it outside and did it. Hand balancing, there was another big one. Grip work with my grippers, and a myriad of other exercises. I also used that time to tighten up my diet a little bit, and I lost a few pounds, which of course is a boon, even just a couple pounds, to your body weight work. In fact, I hit new PRs on handstand push-ups, a few other exercises, horizontal rows and ab work, and it's my grippers. One of my workouts for my grippers is just clamping it shut and holding it as long as I can. Monday, I held that shut for a full 10 seconds more than I did on my previous best. So, when this back thing is fully healed, I'm guessing another 3 to 4 days, I will be stronger elsewhere, which is only going to help my deadlift, right? When I get back into it. For you, I would tell you to do the same. There is nothing wrong with your upper body. You can do many of the same exercises that I just listed and plenty of others. An injury that's bad enough to your knee, and my wife's going through this right now, it might mean that, you can't do anything right now for that knee or for that leg, right? Because there's no flexion. But what about your other leg? You can take this time to learn the one-legged squat. You can perform all sorts of unilateral work with weights, or like me, take the time to nail yourself to a super strict diet. Listen, I have always talked about the power of information on this show, right? For moments like this, I can't recommend enough a book by the name of, what the heck was it? Bill Pearl, Keys to the Inner Universe. Okay. In that book, there are over 1,200 fully illustrated exercises with the proper names, and he has a degree of difficulty chart that goes along with each one. Most people, and you can try this yourself, most people can only name about a dozen exercises, maybe 2 dozen. 12, think about it, 1,200. There is an exercise out there that you can do, and there's an exercise out there that you can make progress at. Okay. So unfortunately, the sad truth of the matter is that most people aren't going to spend the $30. That's what it costs. I looked on Amazon, $30 for this book, which, by the way, is a lot more than an exercise index. In fact, it has one chapter titled Prolonging Your Weightlifting Career, something to that effect, that is worth its weight in gold. Okay. Take whatever money you were going to spend this month on a supplement and buy that book, because whether you're hurt or not, it's going to serve you well for the rest of your life. And you're going to find movements, in some cases, that rock your world, man, and turn everything around and build lots of new muscle. It's an incredible book because I've had it for a while, yet every single time I open it up, Carl, I learn, a new exercise or a new variation of an old exercise. Right. And it makes going to the gym fun again.
You look forward to it. It's like having a new song on your MP3 player.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, and also I just did a show yesterday with the scientist from Minnesota State, and she just published a study on recovering from ACL injuries. And what physical therapists are now starting to realize, that eccentrics build more strength in the muscle faster with less weight and less frequency of training. It's a great show. If you go to superhumanradio.net and just listen to that, it's going to be the first show up there. It was just posted yesterday evening.
My wife must have seen it because she mentioned that exact same thing to me yesterday.
Yeah, it was a great show, and then we started out talking about a specific injury recovery. When we started to broaden the discussion, it became all injury recovery. All injury recovery should be treated this way. And then by the end of that discussion, it was like, why aren't people doing more eccentric work when they're trying to build muscle? Her group proved that there's no damage to the muscle, no greater damage to the muscle than doing concentric work. The illusion was, you damage the muscle more, so it takes longer for you to recover, so you got to use it sparingly. And no, not at all. You could do eccentric work every single day.
That's a new one on me. I'll have to listen to that.
Oh yeah, and you could build strength faster with eccentric work. You build 30% more strength faster, given the same movements, same candidates, just this one different protocol.
Yeah, that I knew, but not the damage. That's great news.
Yeah. We had a whole discussion about creatinine. Real indicators of damage and false flags. Anyway, Eddie Graham says, what's going on with SARMs? I thought they'd be banned by now, or at least there was some legislation pushing to get to that effect. Do they work? Should we be using them?
Well, okay. So first, as of status, as of late last year, November 2019, it looked like they were on the fast track to banning them. However, when I pulled up the latest status of that bill, it just says it was read twice and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. So the steps that are needed, that it needs to go through in order to be banned are, right, the bill's introduced, it's passed in the House, it's passed in the Senate, and then finally it's signed into law by the president. So as of right now, it's still stuck in step one, introduced, right? So the question is, what happened? Well, COVID-19 happened. When you have people dying and you have this epidemic going on, and new laws and resolutions are being passed, and you're mailing checks to almost every American citizen, that takes a lot of gas politically. And they've been tied up with that almost exclusively since February this year.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that you're going to start coming back around to, huh? I mean, you're right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think this is one of them. But consider this. The sad truth is that if our elected officials were doing their job, someone would have known that the World Health Organization and affiliated parties completely failed the American people. How? Because for decades, literally decades, leading scientists and professional societies have been warning about the dangers of these emerging infections, right, and the global pandemic. Almost 30 years ago, National Academy Press, scientists warned of microbial threats to health in the United States. Warning bell, that got rang again a full decade later in a study that was titled Microbial Threats to Health, Emergence, Detection, and Response. Again, National Academy Press, 2003. Nothing was done. Not a single presidential administration, Democrat or Republican, during that time did anything. Nor was anything done by any state rep or by a single senator. So when COVID hit, we were not in the best position, right, to deal with it. I think we've done about as good as you can reasonably be expected to do. But look, we had 30 years to prepare for something like this, okay? 30, how many more people would have survived? And why were we unprepared? Because we were more concerned during that time with spending hundreds of hours and untold money on congressional testimony about steroids in baseball. We were more concerned with banning pro hormones, and we were more concerned with locking up dangerous, hardened criminals who wanted to put another 50 pounds on their bench press. Now, will the idiots in Congress learn that lesson and drop the whole SARMs thing? It's doubtful in my mind. It's doubtful. There are one or two that are worth using that actually do something. However, you have to balance that against their side effects, which are as bad or worse than traditional anabolics, right? And we've got 60 years of data on steroids. We know what they do. We know what they don't do. We know what the side effects are. We know how to counter some of those.
We take some of them for the side effects.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like Trenbolone, you take it for the side effect. You don't take it for its pretty yellow color.
Right, exactly. So we know things like that about anabolics, but we don't know everything about the SARMs yet. So I would tell you also, and this is a matter of public record. It's not a playing favorites politically thing. When you go to the polls in November, I want you to remember Joey Biden's history on chasing down steroids and blaming them for him not being in the major leagues. If you go back to the 1991 congressional hearings that resulted in them becoming Schedule III substances, the FDA, the AMA, and other I think the DEA, every governing body said, no, man,
they didn't want to have nothing to do with it.
Right.
They had real criminals to go after.
Exactly.
And they don't want nothing to do with it.
But no, Joey he went up there, and when he couldn't refer to the science, because nothing he said was supported scientifically, what did he do? He appealed to emotion. Oh, we got to save the children. It's going to kill the kids. Look at this father. He lost his son to steroids. Sidebar: he was on powerful psychotic medications.
Right.
No
PCT.
To cause suicide.
They had this kid cold turkey, and they put him on SSRIs at the same time. And SSRIs, in the best of cases, make people want to commit suicide. Here's a kid who just went from feeling like King Kong to feeling like a 14-year-old, prepubescent girl. And now he's confused because they got him on. I had the father on the show in 2005, I think it was. No, maybe it was the end of 2005. What was his name again, the father? I can't even think of it right now. Taylor Hooten's father. I can remember Don Hooten. I had him on the show. I asked him, I got to find that episode. I said to him, why are you blaming it on the hormones? I says, why aren't you looking at the SSRIs? I said, we know that people become suicidal. And when and then he told me about the psychiatrist that his son and he were working with, it was a woman. She didn't understand what she was doing when she said to him, stop taking those. She should have said to him, okay, we got to wean you off. No, it was just stop taking those and start taking these. That's all it was. That's why Taylor Hooten killed himself. And Don Hooten hates the fact, because I could hear it in his voice. When I said that to him, he goes, well, maybe we should have known more about that. Yeah, I think so. This doctor just pulled the plug on your son's life with one move. Stop that and take this.
And it's awful convenient the way he shook down Major League Baseball.
But you know what? And I was going to say, and he turned his son's death into a business opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
It's really unfortunate. It's a terrible thing, but what are you going to do? Give me just 1 second. My wife is getting a phone call.
Okay. Anyway,
go ahead. Good.
No,
you can go into the next one. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's just go to the next one. Let me get back to where I was. I got thrown there. Okay, so the next one comes from Ron Winters. He says, I was cleaning out my cellar and came across several old supplements from yesteryear. I got to read this one from here because it's a little longer than the screen allows. Come on. There it is. They included bottles of V2G, GKG, HMB, and something called Betagen. Also, something that looks like candy called Phosphagems. I also have a few bottles of Dimetadrine 25, Designer Protein, Vipro, and packets of effervescent creatine. Are they still any good? Not only are they still any good, but I think that you ought to open up a shop online and sell that stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, This is quite the treasure trove. Now, so I'll have to take each one right one by one. They appear to have all been purchased or at least manufactured almost 30 years ago. So mid 90s, we're talking maybe.
Mm-hmm.
V2G, GKG, and likely the HMB and the Betagen were all early EAS products, experimental applied sciences. Before the company got bought out by Abbott Labs, it was still under Bill Phillips. So V2G, I looked up some old ads. I pulled out the old magazines. That was a vanadyl sulfate-based product. It had some additional ingredients that they thought would help. Taurine, I think, being one of them. And it was positioned as a glucose disposal agent. Duchesne was writing about it at the time, so you can imagine, it probably sold pretty well. Being an encapsulated product, it's probably held up better than some of your other ones, the powders.
Especially if the bottle's never been emptied. I mean, opened. Right. It's never been opened. The seal hasn't been, even however archaic the seals were back then compared to today. And if it was in a cold, dark place where there was minimal air movement, I mean, that stuff should all be pretty good.
Yeah, I would not use it, given, number one, it never did anything remarkable.
Okay. It wasn't. So here's the deal. It wasn't good when it was new. So it's probably not good. So yeah.
Plus, I can't account for all the ingredients, so that's a tough call. Just err on the side of caution. Yeah. GKG was encapsulated glutamine, if I'm not mistaken. Again, they had a couple other ingredients in there that they thought helped. Like V2G, it didn't do much of anything, and I would just pass on it. HMB, at that point, that was likely EAS's product because
wasn't that Connolly's? Didn't Connolly introduce it originally?
No, that was Dr. Steve Nissen at the University of Iowa. Okay. He holds the patent on it. He still might, but if I'm not mistaken, Phillips had the right to distribution rights on it. Didn't work then. Doesn't work now. Phosphogems, if memory serves, those were creatine in a little dextrose like jellied candy. I wouldn't consume that much sugar anyway, and certainly not sugar that's 30 years old. I don't know what's growing on it. You don't either. So if you want to buy creatine, it's cheap enough. The dimetadrine 25 is another story. That was AST Research's original. It was the original ephedrine hydrochloride product, 25 milligrams per tablet. It may be 30 years old, but
some portion of it is still good.
Yeah, I mean, a molecule of ephedrine doesn't turn into a molecule of something else just because of the expiration date passed, especially a tablet, right?
Right.
So I would definitely hang on to it, and I would tell you to use it. Designer protein, that was one of the first two whey concentrates, along with AST's ViaPro. I would forego that and just buy new. I wouldn't trust a powder this many years. And then finally, the effervescent creatine. That was heavily marketed, if I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't that instead of creatine monohydrate, it was creatine phosphate? That wasn't Pat Arnold introduced that years ago. It gave everybody explosive diarrhea that took it. It did.
Yeah,
it was on the boards. It was like, well, don't take too much. Why? It gives you diarrhea like immediately.
I remember seeing SoCal, I think, selling that product in the old Pump magazine, I think it was, before it just went by the wayside for reasons that you just described. Effervescent creatine was short-lived.
Hey, let me just say something. We got a lot of questions piling up here. We're going to get to all of them after this first break. Just so all you guys waiting for your questions answered, we're going to get to yours next. I'm sorry, Rob.
That's okay. So overall, I would consider yourself a fortunate man. That dimetadrine 25 is unique. I have come across a source, not in the United States, for 30 milligrams pure ephedrine. but you need to import it. So, it's a little, there's nothing shady about it. You can legally import at least 6 grams of ephedrine a month, which is more than even I could use. So listen, bottom line, enjoy the dimetadrine 25 and ditch the rest of it. Yep.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one quick commercial break. And when we come back, we've got questions piling up from viewers, live viewers like you. And nothing is off topic. I forgot to tell, when I posted this show today, I put something else in the topic, a little racy. I said nothing is off topic. So I hope people bring some interesting questions, because your interesting questions make the show more interesting. We'll be right back. Best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous. I got to unmute my mic. Welcome
Okay.
back. Welcome back. Oh, there I am. I'm kissing the mic again. I got to move it back. All right, we're going to go in the order that these questions were posted.
All
And
right.
we'll try to be as brief as possible to get everybody into this segment. We'll get all your questions answered, okay? So the first one I happen to know is Sean Bean. His security settings on his Facebook account, for some reason, don't let his name pass through. He wants me to talk about nasal melanocortin stimulating hormone and possibly provide a DIY method because there's a lot of people who don't respond well to injected, and in certain people with certain disorders, melanocortin stimulating hormone is completely undetectable. And he believes that delivering it nasally is more beneficial to the immune system, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to make a video. I actually had planned on making a video, but then I had all three of my children at the house at the same time, and agendas and time constraints were like a moving target. And so, but I promise I'll make it this week. It's so short, it's ridiculous. It's so simple. But I'll do that this week and I'll put it up on Facebook. Tommy D wants to know from you. He's read agmatine sulfate potentiates kratom. In addition, some of those you mentioned in the BPB, which I have been the BluePrint bulletin, which he likes. Your 2 cc's on agmatine and dosage, obviously to potentiate kratom.
Yeah, well, agmatine, as it turns out, has some extremely interesting applications that it's not used for in the realm of sports nutrition. Let's just say that. That's going to be changing, I think, once this information gets out. But needless to say, most agmatine doses should be right around 1 to 1.5 grams, regardless of what application you're using it for. Now, I know folks who do that once a day and get great results. I know folks who do that 3 times a day. I would tell Tommy that for the application that that isn't well known, I would do that 3 times a day. And I think he's going to notice some profound differences over the course of, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks. Some people report it even 2 to 3 weeks. Huge benefits. It's a great compound.
So wait a minute. You're talking about including it with kratom 2 to 3 times a day?
Using it for use with kratom.
Oh, so you take your normal kratom dose, but then you use the agmatine 3 times throughout the day.
Right.
Okay. Now I understand.
Yeah. So
what is agmatine good for? Can you drop one bomb on us of the multitude of bombs? What's it good for?
Well, most common application is for nitric oxide.
Right.
And for that purpose, it's one of the better compounds, no question about it. But with respect to bodybuilding, muscle gain, fat loss, and things like that, it turns out it's somewhat specific to the application. But let's just put it this way: it's got a lot more uses than what it's being used for today.
Okay. All right. So the next question comes from Samurai Jack. He says, "Is there a good oral HGH peptide?"
Okay, so my experience with HGH peptides were the what do you call it? CJC 1295, right, with and without DAC, GHRP
2 or 6, either one.
246, ipamorelin.
2 or 6.
All of those things I found effective, if a little inconvenient, right? If you know what I mean. I will tell you that MK677, which is not technically a peptide, but it's sold with them, was very effective for me in the amount of 25 milligrams 5 days on and 2 days off. Now, when I say very effective, I'm going to quantify that with this. My IGF-1 levels were over the top of the high end of the range. Not obscenely so, but they were consistently over that. Now, what did I notice beyond that? it makes you very hungry, or at least it does. Any good GH releaser is probably going to make you a little tired and very hungry, and that stuff did. Be aware, MK677 though puts a lot of weight on you, like up to 10 pounds in some people. And yes, a lot of it's water. That can be helpful for your bench press, but it's going to kill you on your handstand shoulder press, right? Push-ups or any other body weight work. So it depends, right? What application you want to use it for, but those are the products that I have found useful in elevating IGF-1 levels around the clock. You can get transient increases with things like GABA and glycine, certainly, and those products are fantastic around sleep. But I would tell you MK677 is probably orally the best one that you can use.
There's a reason why it's not a drug. Merck came out with MK677 because they saw an opportunity with the aging baby boomers wanting growth hormone, but they predicted that aging baby boomers wouldn't be willing to inject stuff like peptides, which they were wrong, clearly. But and we can thank the type 2 diabetes stampede for normalizing insulin syringes on the ground at the local restaurant, local restaurant and every place else. But with that being said, MK677 was created by Merck and then abandoned. And the reason they abandoned it is important for you to know. And the reason for that is because if you're taking MK677 to raise growth hormone levels, you can take it for well under 6 weeks continuously, even if you're going 5 on and 2 off. And then you have to stop for a while, because what MK677 does over time, and this has been shown in studies of older adults, because that's who Merck was going after with that product. Like old people take a couple drops of this, growth hormone is coming up, they're great, but a large percentage of the people dropped out of the studies for a variety of reasons, but most notably anxiety.
Yeah,
like people who had never had anxiety, like oh my God, some difficulty sleeping. It started out where they were sleeping better, but then all of a sudden difficulty sleeping. And when they checked their blood levels of and urine, they actually did urine analysis for for GH metabolites too. They looked at them and they said these people, they saw this amazing trajectory of creating more and more growth hormone. Then all of a sudden they just went bang, and they weren't producing hardly, like less than they were before they started the supplement.
Yeah,
and so Merck abandoned it because they knew this is the kiss of death. And no one observes the fact that growth hormone is pulsatile, and just the way it pulses is a key and lock into the receptors that are looking for it. And so, MK677 is great if you are looking to eat around the clock and you don't care about any other metabolic changes. Yeah, you're right. You will want to eat around the clock.
Yeah, and to be totally honest, I got 2 bottles that are sitting up in my cabinet, and they're going to be there for they're going to be there for a long time. And the only reason they're there, to be honest with you, is if I'm injured, right? I want I want IGF-1 levels as high as they can be.
Like this is a something to save you, to rescue out of. The other thing is that any legit MK677 tastes like robot ass. If robots had asses, that's what robot ass would taste like. MK677.
Amen. Yeah.
Prove me wrong. Yeah. Taste it. You like every time you taste it, it's like, oh, and you go to sleep with that taste in your mouth. And it's like, man, I feel like like a robot just crapped oil in my mouth. And it's like a combination of body smells and robot smells.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Are there any good supplements for anxiety other than the Dr. Seeds chill pill? Rob just mentioned one that's super duper. People don't give it enough credit. And that is just plain old glycine. 3 grams of glycine. Just let it dissolve in your cheek of your mouth and then swallow it down with some water. You'll feel calm come on you. Literally. Glycine increases GABA, brain GABA, gram for gram, more than GABA does. Think about that.
Yeah. I would say, given the volumes of research on glycine, it frankly surprises me it's not used more in sports nutrition. It's even cheaper than GABA, right? It has many of the same applications. I happen to think it works much better during the daytime, right? It's not going to knock you out, put you to sleep, but it's noticeable in 2 to 3 gram amounts. And certainly more than that if you do want to position it around bedtime. I would also tell you that as rescue medications and once in a while things, Kratom and Phenibut work. They're probably the 2 heaviest hitters that I can name that aren't prescription. Frankly, I think in the right doses, they blow away, other anti-anxiety things that I was prescribed when I was going through my divorce. They were giving me all these different things, and I kept going back to Kratom and Phenibut. And so, those would be the big ones. Beyond that, kava, look for something that's standardized for 30% kava lactones. That will be good. Yeah, and so much of it is, believe it or not, breathing. You will find that if you can breathe primarily through your nose, your anxiety levels will be much, much lower than if you're taking big gulps of air and breathing through your mouth. And now I know that sounds strange and maybe hokey, but I want you to try it. One of the things that I noticed almost immediately was I have an automatic blood pressure cuff. Most people, I think, should have one, right? And when I breathe through my nose, the diastolic number, at least, is significantly lower. As opposed
in fact, on that first breath, as your lungs completely expand in your chest, you can feel the next heartbeat literally go boom, boom, boom,
yes,
boom, like it slows right down. I mean, try it. Pay attention to your heart. Sit quietly. You think you're relaxed. Now take a long draw through your nose into your lungs and let your ribs expand. And if you cough up at that top end, then you got to pay attention to your lungs because you may have something going on with your lungs. But with that being said, just fill your lungs. And as you fill your lungs, just be conscious of your chest cavity and just track your heart. And watch what happens when you get to the very top of your lung expansion capacity and the lungs start to go back the other way. The heartbeat will immediately slow down after that one moment. It'll just immediately slow down.
Yeah. The final thing I'll tell you is kind of combine supplements and breathing and a few other things. I will take anywhere between 2 and 5 grams of either glycine or GABA. As soon as that calmness starts to wash over you, you can feel it after experimenting with it for a while. I light a candle. I shut off all the lights. I do this at night. And for 10 minutes, I focus my concentration as much as possible on that flame. And it's actually a focus and concentration.
So wonderful pre-bed technique.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah. And again, breathing through the nose, you're going to experience, I guess you'd call it an inner peace that just doesn't exist with watching TV or talking to somebody or reading a book or what have you. So that combines the supplements, the breathing, and a focus and concentration exercise that, frankly, is only going to help you, especially in the gym. If you think about it, because we multitask everything today, we have lost the ability to focus on one thing. And I'll tell you, you start to notice things like I noticed a flame is not just a flame. There are 3 parts to it. There's the orange part, there's the blue part, and then there's the very bottom, I forget. It's a little bit different color. But listen, when was the last time you noticed something like that much detail in anything?
Yeah, no, I get it. Let's. I just want to get past this question. I can't advise you how to make home brewed glutathione in confidence that you won't injure yourself or end up with an abscess that'll have to remove a quarter of your quadricep muscle. I think those kind of things you should buy from a reliable source.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also, liposomal glutathione is
just as
fantastic.
it's very effective. Take it every day. Yeah, that's
E-
right. Right.
If you want something even cheaper, N-acetylcysteine, precursor to
Want
glutathione.
something even cheaper that actually has a dual duty? Good quality whey protein.
Yeah,
It'll
right,
increase
exactly.
glutathione production in the liver.
Right.
Patrick Rogers says we need to talk about finish feeding cows sometimes, grass finish, grain finish, or is there even a need for it? Interesting. I would love to do that. Let me get you booked on the show. I'll have Elisa reach out to you on Facebook. So Travis Michele says, my fat loss has plateaued even after months of intermittent fasting at one meal a day and strict keto diet. What should I do to kickstart my metabolism? I'm going to tell you what to do. I know exactly what to do. Stop fasting just for one meal a day and stop eating keto. Just stop that. Go back to 5 small meals a day. Make them predominantly protein, healthy fat, and some complex carbs, potatoes, stuff like that. And if you can't do 5 in a day, do 3 and 2 protein shakes. You're starving yourself. Your body thinks you're stupid. I'm sorry. I'm stupid. So I know. I've done these same things. Thinks you don't know how to hunt anymore. You're gonna get us killed. So we got to shut everything off because you obviously don't know what you're doing. That's what your body thinks from an evolutionary perspective. You cannot take a supplement or do a certain type of workout to short circuit the evolutionary drive to keep you alive.
Yeah, and my advice was going to be simple: start
Serious.
eating. Start eating. The fact of the matter is, the enzymes, right, that burn fat and store fat become less efficient the longer you overfeed or diet. Consequently, you want to just start eating again like a normal person for about 2 weeks. And if you want to resume your intermittent fasting and keto diet, I'd say go ahead, but zigzag calories. You need to zigzag between 100% of maintenance on training days and 70% of maintenance on off days. And the reason for that is your metabolism never gets a chance to slow down to match a consistently lower energy intake. You see this all the time. People decide they're too chubby. They go from 3,000 calories a day to 2,000. They'll lose weight for a couple of weeks, maybe a month. But then the metabolism will slow down to match that energy intake. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to go down to 1,000 calories a day? It's like landing a plane. The closer you get to the ground, the less error percentage that you have, right? Zigzag calories. I think you'll find that to be a very effective strategy.
You're actually at a very exciting threshold right now. Because what bodybuilders, pro bodybuilders will tell you that when they starve themselves for those last 16 weeks to get on that stage and look like an anatomy chart, people say, oh, it's drugs. And yeah, there's drugs taking them to a percentage that humans couldn't get to without, no doubt about it. But they starve themselves for 16 weeks, these big muscular machines that want energy and they're starving themselves. That when you decide on how you're going to move forward with a reverse diet, your muscles are going to explode. So take advantage of it and train hard, because this is a very exciting moment for you, because you've gotten your body to this point where it's like, oh man, I think that we have to just shut everything off, to now all of a sudden what your body's going to perceive as a feast at the end of the famine. And if you train right and you make sure that you're getting more than enough protein, you're going to explode. You're going to build muscle out of this.
That's the BluePrint show.
Yeah.
Another topic for another time, but it's called anabolic burst cycle eating. And, it's very effective.
Yeah. And where can he find that? At CoachRobRegish.com?
Yeah, we sell a product called the Ultimate Blueprint there, as well as a few other things. And you can read about how to manipulate both your diet and your training so that they both work in concert to build muscle and lose fat.
Yeah, you should pick it up, because you're really at a threshold that if you make the right moves, you're gonna put on 8 or 9 pounds of muscle without even trying. Seriously. All right. So Joe Mozzarella says, are there any side effects of glycine? Yes, taking too much. And I just did it. I just did a little brief interview last month about it. So I'm a glycine junkie. I love glycine. I use it to sweeten drinks.
Yeah.
I've been taking 3 grams at night before bed forever. And I can tell you when I don't take it, I don't get as much deep sleep. And so
Yeah.
it really works. But here's the problem with it. It really works. And that's the problem with it. So the good thing about it is it really works. The problem is it really works. So I started taking 15, 20 grams a day because my logic was I was messaging with Ron Penna from Legendary Foods. And I said, I eat so much muscle meat. I'm taking in about 20 grams of glycine a day right now. And probably 10 or more was that night at bedtime. I became so groggy, so sluggish. I would wake up in the morning and I would say to Elisa, my brain feels tired. I can't figure it out. My balance is a little wonky. I feel like I wake up drunk. I don't know what it is. It was the friggin' glycine. When I stopped taking it 3 days later, I woke up. I felt great. I said, son of a gun, that stuff really works.
The only problem with glycine is you'll want to use it a lot.
It tastes good. It's sweet.
Tastes great.
I use it as a sweetener.
Yeah, it does. It tastes fantastic.
If you use it sparingly like you're supposed to, it's really a great amino acid. Just take 3 grams of it before bed, or if you're walking into a meeting and you're a little freaked out and nervous about it, or you're meeting a girl or a guy for the first time and you don't want to Xanax and kind of spill stuff and drink too much. You just want to take the edge off. 3 grams of glycine is magic. It's magic. And if you're one of these people who wakes up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. wide awake and you can't figure out, take 3 grams of glycine before bed. You'll sleep all night and send me $1 the next day. Send it to 2908 Brownsboro Road, Suite 103, Louisville, Kentucky, 40206. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll get back on track with the other questions that were sent in earlier. If you want to send questions to be on the show, you just have to send them to onair@superhumanradio.net. And we pass them right along to Rob for you. Stay tuned. People are probably wondering why I'm keeping my camera on in the commercial break. I'm doing an experiment because somebody said they couldn't hear the commercials during the commercial breaks on yesterday's show. And I thought, all right, let me check something out. Maybe because I'm on a new platform. Had this same video platform for the past almost year and a half or so. And then I switched. And this one is a lot better, has a lot more features. So anyway, but I don't know all the ins and outs of it. So let's see if the commercial showed up that time when I listened to the replay. So let's see here. The next question comes from David Schultz. I came across a podcast by Dr. Scott Connolly about a product that they called Physique 2.0. He sounds pretty well versed in amino acid metabolism, but I guess the product was discontinued.
Yeah.
You want to know the truth? No, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know the story on Physique 2.0. But anyway, listen, for those unfamiliar, Dr. Connolly was one of three parties that brought forth the original metrics. Okay, so that was the original meal replacement product that spawned an untold number of copycats. The other two parties being Bill Phillips and Jeff Everson. So I have had the good fortune of talking to Dr. Connolly extensively and found his knowledge about things like protein and amino acid metabolism on a whole nother level. I mean, I like to think I know a lot about this stuff, but keeping up with him was all I could do. But sometimes that's part of the problem because at one point, believe it or not, I had Dr. Connolly as well as a co-business founder with him, Paul Arciano, who was doing some studies upstate New York in university studies on an eating protocol that they were putting forth. And so I had them on a conference call with the medical directors at Aetna, right, a health insurance company, trying to sell them on the merits of this new diet protocol.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I don't recall all of it, but I do know it was predicated on getting 3 grams of leucine every
Dr. Connolly's most famous quoted on any interview he does, the requisite 3 gram threshold.
Yeah.
The requisite 3 gram, because that was in his mind, in his research, that was the magic number. Once you hit 3 grams, anything above 3 grams, you were not seeing any greater increase in protein synthetic drive. But under 3 grams, you saw far less. And so that was he made that famous.
Well, I certainly remember it. And he had some very interesting data on what happens when you get that. And he had a whole line of functional foods that, like protein pizza and candies and stuff.
He said one day he said, so he was a sponsor on my show when he came out with the new Progenics product.
Yeah.
And before that, I produced a podcast for him for a year, which was, what was the name of his book? You remember his book?
Body RX?
Yeah. So I produced his Body RX podcast. For all I know, it could be this podcast. I don't know. But he introduced Physique 2.0 at the end of the podcast relationship. And the reality is that Physique 2.0 was a great product. It was a designer carbohydrate and a high quality. I think it was just a designer quality. It was just a designer carbohydrate that on paper burned calories. And that was their whole thing. It was like, this was going to revolutionize carbohydrates. And it was a great product. And it can still be had. I know where you can go and buy it and put your label on it if you want. You have to pay a licensing fee. Yeah. But his heart wasn't in it anymore. His heart wasn't in it anymore. And that's why it went away. It didn't go away because he couldn't make money at it. And it didn't go away because people didn't respect him and everybody would have bought it. He went away because, him and his wife would, like, you don't need to be bothered with this stuff anymore, Because don't forget, Connolly got sick at one point in his life, got real sick. And depending on whose version of the story, he had full-blown multiple sclerosis and was in a wheelchair, to he had something and he was in a wheelchair, but he was clearly in a wheelchair at some point in time. And I don't think the guy,
remember that.
Yeah, I don't think I think that, I mean, I think Physique 2.0, him and Vince Andrich put that together. Vince, my friend Vince Andrich. So, you know, they put that together and they had a real product. And I think that in the end, at the end analysis, Scott searched his heart and thought, I don't want to start another business and do all that stuff again.
Yeah, and that was after, I never used Physique 2.0, but that was after, if I'm not mistaken, his Progenics product.
Yeah. This was because Progenics went down the tubes with his allegiances with somebody that was involved with CrossFit, and then that one of his partners, they literally stole Progenics from him, and he ended up having to go to court. And you know, but yeah, this was the Physique 2.0. And I'm trying to think what it was called, the something carb.
Oh, yeah.
The thermocarb. It was called,
yeah.
It was patented thermocarb.
Yeah.
And it was a very, it was a unique form of starch that was then somehow manipulated through like an enzymatic process. And it like gave you gobs and gobs of energy, but it didn't spike insulin and all this other stuff.
Yeah. So, I remember Gareth Denyer. If you're listening, hi, Gareth.
Yeah.
Down there in Texas, he was writing me about it. He's like, man, this Physique 2.0 stuff, I'm losing fat like crazy. And, you know, I have a lot of energy. I didn't get to use it. What I did use, though, was his Progenics product. And it was the most phenomenal thing I've ever experienced. You could train till you drop in the morning. Take that product.
Yeah, it was legit.
And by the early evening, you could repeat that same workout.
Once again, these were dairy proteins. He was working with a company in New Zealand. They're still out there if anybody wants to do this, by the way.
Yep.
That they used molecular sieves to extract specific proteins from dairy. And these are obviously peptides, folded peptide proteins, and concentrate those and just use those. They were involved in a study where they would apply the stuff we were taking in the Progenics capsules. They were going to apply that to prosthetic devices that had a joint, like knees and hips, because they already did a dog study on it. They got through the whole dog study. Not only does it increase the bone knitting faster, less reactions to where the implant was inserted. It had a host of benefits. It was just dairy protein on the ball of the hip joint. That's all it was, instead of this chemical that they put on there typically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever it was phenomenal. I shared it with a number of people. They'll, in their words, they'll never forget it.
Oh, no, it was great stuff.
It was great stuff. And listen, there's a lot of controversy about who he is and what he's done and blah, blah. But, you know, when you've got a building named after you at UCLA.
Yeah. No, the guy was brilliant. He was brilliant. I got nothing against. Like I said, I think he just realized that, hey, what do I want to do this for? I mean, I got 60 million in the bank. What do I need? Another 60?
Yeah.
I mean, and I just think that it was a great product, and it died with his desire not to run another business. I really do think that's all it was. And I respect him for that.
Yeah. He made some incredible contributions. From his original product all the way through, you know, the ones that we've mentioned. And frankly, he's what the industry needs. He developed legitimate products. And anybody with a mind like that, you know, is exactly what is needed in sports nutrition.
Yeah.
It's just a shame, right, that in the twilight of his life, there are none of these products forthcoming. But like you said, you know what? He's got all the money in the world. God bless him.
Yeah.
I hope whatever he's doing, I hope he's enjoying it.
And I think that's where he is. You know, I know people that have sold big businesses and turned around and thought everything they touch is going to turn to gold and squandered everything. And I've known people who've sold big businesses and stepped away and said, "No, I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm like, I got a lot I can do. I'll ride my bike. I'll go hunting. I'll go traveling." They stay busy. They stay active. They don't just sit in a chair. But not everybody wants to fight the fight. Joe Barrett says, "I don't do very well with traditional supplements, things like creatine, whey protein, or especially pre-workouts. The problem is this is all my gym sells. I can't really." I'm sorry. It's a longer one. I can't. Come on, where is it? I can't really make heads or tails out of the thousands of products online. And what can I do to really find something that works for me? I'm in my 50s and more interested in doing body weight stuff as my injuries from weights have been piling up over the years. Joe Barrett.
So just a few notes on the whole process that he's describing. For most people, they are going to learn these things, what works and what doesn't, through a very costly process of trial and error. And that can and does take years or decades, with thousands and thousands of dollars spent, and even worse, that time is wasted. Okay, and it's the time lost that'll really kill you. Let's say there's a kid spending $2,000 a year on supplements. $2,000. He's 16 years old. Instead of putting that in supplements, he puts that in a retirement account, Roth IRA, for 10 years. So total amount saved, 20 grand. Right? He stopped saving at age 26. If he never saves another dime and he gets an average market return, he's going to have almost $1 million tax-free at age 67. Actually, a little earlier, 65, 66. If, however, he waited until age 36 to accumulate that same $20,000 and get the same average stock market return, he would have less than $350,000 at age 67. Your choice, less than $350,000 or almost $1 million, tax-free. To me, that's the real price of trial and error in the supplement game. Because let's face it, we all get into it when we're very young. Nobody's thinking about retirement. That's 40 years away. Like I said, it's the time that'll kill you. Just try to have that in your mind somewhere, okay? Part of the strategy that I would be employing, that I wish I had at that age, is I would pay $15, $20 a month to learn which products work and which don't, for the simple reason that you won't waste money like that. And so, it's just something to think about. So getting back to you say the traditional supplements don't work for you. That's fine, because I've got a great alternative for you. It's called desiccated liver. So what is this stuff, right? I'm going to read from no less an authority than Bill Starr, right, in his book, The Strongest Shall Survive. He's describing a study that was done on desiccated liver, conducted in 1951, was funded by the Department of the Navy, U.S. Naval Research, looked at the value of liver in combating fatigue, okay? What they did was they gave 3 groups of standard diets that they fed for 12 weeks.
Rob, you dropped out. You dropped out for the first portion of your sentence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just start again.
He gave laboratory rats, right, a diet to eat, 3 different groups for 12 weeks. The first group, he added 9 synthetic and 2 natural vitamins to. The second group got the standard diet plus B complex vitamins. The third group got the regular diet, and 10% of their diet was desiccated liver. Okay. Each rat was then placed in a drum of water, which he couldn't climb out of. So he had to swim or drown. Okay. So this is the ultimate test of endurance, so to speak. The first group of rats swam for 13.3 minutes. The second, 13.4. The third group, the desiccated liver group, they were able to swim for 63, 83, and 87 minutes, three of them, before expiring, while the remainder of the group was still swimming at the end of the 2-hour mark. They stopped the experiment because they weren't quitting anytime soon. Now, I have read critiques of that study which say, hey, yeah, but the rats were iron deficient. And of course, you give them desiccated liver, it's high in heme iron, very bioavailable. Of course, their endurance is going to take off. Okay, maybe. But what that doesn't explain is the next part of the experiment where they shot rats up with 400 milligrams of cortisone for 40 days. Gave them the same diets. One group got desiccated liver, the other one didn't. Long story short, there's a picture online that you can find by, Google anti-fatigue value of liver and then select images. You're going to see two rats. The first rat in the upper part of the picture is the rat that got the liver. It's about 3 times the size of the other one, has all brown hair, and looks no worse for wear for the experiment. The rat in the foreground that didn't get the liver is all white, emaciated, and looks to be on death's door. Okay? Here's the bottom line. Desiccated liver sounds like it may be a product for you. And I'm betting you'll probably do pretty well on it. It is not a miracle, no. But it was used successfully by our iron forefathers. So why are we disregarding it now? I don't understand. Especially with data out there like that. Now, does it taste good? No. Molly loves it. She loves the smell of it. And, given that I have the powder, I throw it in some vegetable juice and slam it every day. If you don't want to do that, Beverly makes a good desiccated liver product. And I would encourage you to use theirs. Either way, give it a good 4 to 6 weeks and see how you do on it.
Why not eat more liver?
Well, you certainly can do that.
I mean, so I'm sitting here thinking about, so what's magic about desiccated liver? The process of desiccation is when you take an animal's body temperature. Let's say a cow, I'm just guessing, has 100-degree Fahrenheit body temperature. And you let the gland or the meat in a controlled setting dry at that temperature until it's completely desiccated. It's letting it dry at the original body temperature of the animal. Why would that be something so magical?
I think it has something to do with what you just mentioned, temperature. As I look at this desiccated liver product, it says low heat. Low heat. So, right, we know what heat does to protein. It denatures it. You throw a steak on the grill, that browning around the edges of it, that's where protein is, right, being where heat is doing its damage to it.
Right, but it's actually the Maillard effect. The browning of meat is from the glycogen, which is caramelizing but that's what causes the brown. But I get your point. The protein is being burned. It's being destroyed. It's being charred. It's being, high heat. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we spoke, if you think about it, we spoke earlier about the merits of what a correctly processed, low temperature processed whey protein can give in terms of growth factors and immunoglobulins. The difference between that stuff and what's sitting on the shelf at Walmart selling for $15 a jug is that they cook that protein up to 170 plus degrees. At least they did as of 2010 was when I wrote the original BluePrint. I suspect it's no different today. They cook it into oblivion.
And high heat cooking has been associated with the quote unquote cancer causing agents found in meat and processed meat. Hot dogs, they use the highest heat to cook those meats. get all the moisture out of them before they add broths back to them and all this other stuff. That's really where the problem is. All right, so Jordan Fran says, Carl, could you speak more on the benefits of alpha ketoglutarate sources? You've talked a bit about that over the past week or so. I'm not making the connection. So there are 2 good studies done by some scientists that were actually on the show, and they were short-term promoters of their product. It's a calcium ketoglutarate product, and it's calcium ketoglutarate, but the important thing in it is the ketoglutarate. We do have ketoglutarate in our body, and as all the other target supplements that you're going to see in your life, anything that starts getting lower when you get old, they're like, oh, that's what you need. That'll replenish it. Well, there's some good research on ketoglutarate levels on rodents. We've talked about it on the show, and I couldn't find the calcium ketoglutarate. So I took arginine ketoglutarate, and it works just as good. So I just want it for the ketoglutarate. I'm not hoping it makes nitric oxide. And the arginine isn't horrible for you. In fact, arginine is kind of good for your gut, just raw arginine. So, but that's it. It's a powerful anti-aging. If you look the research up, or look for the episode on Superhuman Radio where we talk about it. It's really good.
Good.
Okay, so I think that's it. So, yes, and Tommy D wanted you to know that he feels great on desiccated liver. So many benefits. I know a lot of people. I like liver. I love liver. I love liver.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we have the BluePrint tip of the day. So stay with us. off by going to kenergize.com/SHR and choosing one of the purchase options and using the code SHR. That's KENERGIZE.com/SHR and code SHR.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
I love beef. And if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
welcome back. I love the audience. So I'm playing around over here. It's obvious that I'm looking at something, looking at the instructions for the software, and all of a sudden Patrick Rogers posts, cannot hear the commercials because I did something. I clicked the microphone for my mic and it muted everything. Marcus Megard says now it's all gone. I think I know why, Marcus. I figured it out with yours and Patrick Rogers' help. So thank you very, very much. I just figured it all out. All right. So anyway, back to the BluePrint tip of the day. Thank you to the audience for participating. Those of you listening to the podcast, you need to be here. This is one of those things that you need to be here to understand. There you go. BluePrint tip of the day. Is this compound the future of sports nutrition? Well, is it?
We're going to find out. I'm very excited about it. But as you can imagine, I get a lot of emails and texts about Synthogen, Progenadrex, Tranquilligen, et cetera, et cetera. The other day, though, I got one from a guy who was either mad or frustrated. He said, Rob, it's been almost 8 years since you've done Synthogen. Why haven't we seen any other new products from you? And the honest answer to that question is there are several reasons. So the quest for a pre-workout that should have, transpired years ago fizzled. And there were a number of reasons for that, but suffice it to say, I could have done better due diligence on a few things. But there were other things outside of my control. It wound up taking so long that by the time we were actually ready to go to production with it, I could have done a better formula many times over. In that time, there were a couple of new ingredients that came out that would have lent themselves very well to it. Now, sometimes, like I said, there are legitimate reasons for such a delay. You might have a lack of raw material. You might have a batch that isn't up to spec, right, on the quality standards. You might still be waiting for more feedback from people that you've farmed it out to. But none of that was the case in there. I probably could have done two or three products in the time I didn't do one. So I lost time. And, as I tried to say before, time's your most valuable resource. So, the good news, though, is this. Recently, I stumbled across an ingredient that I think has tremendous potential. The studies on PubMed are absolutely eye-watering. Not only does it facilitate greater muscle gain and fat loss, it did so in just 2 weeks. And the numbers that we're talking about here are not small, okay? They're not like they gained two more ounces of muscle than controls and lost 2 more ounces of fat. No, it's profound. The compound is also very healthy for you. As an example, the amount of blood flow that it can generate does everything from resolve hypertension in those afflicted to going head to head against Viagra and coming out with superior scores based on the questions that they gave to the people that were using it. So when you see data like that, it kind of stops you cold. And also some of the verbiage that the scientists are using to talk about the compound is rather direct and finite. Usually you hear things like, well, it looks good, but more studies are needed. And what they're saying here is, the compound has the potential to, contribute mightily to treating disease and sarcopenia and the age-related loss of muscle, et cetera.
Contributing to that or helping to reverse that?
Helping to reverse it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, NASA is studying the compound for long duration space flight. So, you might have seen we sent 3 astronauts to the space station the other day. That's all well and good, but a trip to Mars is going to be years to and from, and those people are going to be wasting away unless there's some sort of intervention, and they are studying this stuff for that. Also, when it comes to product, and Carl, you know this better than anyone, it takes money, a lot of money. Money to source the raws, money to run batch tests to make sure everything's up to spec. And probably most onerous is paying the lab up front for a production run. And what I'm talking about is, the days of labs doing production runs of 500 or 1,000 bottles are all over. They've got minimum orders now of like 10,000, right? 10,000. But just, let's do some quick math. Let's say you got a product, the cost of the raw ingredients is $40, right? And the lab will let you do 1,000 bottles. Well, your outlay is going to be $40,000. And it doesn't stop there because, right, we need to factor in shipping to get it to your warehouse or wherever you're distributing it from. And that can be many thousands of dollars more, especially if it's a product that weighs a pound or more. This is part of the reason why nobody makes money on protein. The shipping.
Aaron Singerman warned me when I came out with Thrive. He said, don't do a protein product. I said, why? He said, it's a commodity item. He says, you're gonna have to ship tons and tons to make any money at all. And he was right.
Yeah,
and I don't think he has a product. I don't think Redcon One has a protein product, do they?
Oh, they're smart. They probably, they don't want to.
Well, but but the truth is, his company has a big enough following now that if they introduced a protein, they'd probably do well.
Yeah,
if they haven't already, I don't know.
But be that as it may, obviously it's a lot of money, and shipping rates have only gone up in recent years. You can look and see that for yourself. But given what I'm seeing with this stuff, it may just be worth that kind of outlay. Now,
wow.
Yeah, I still need to convince some other investors that people that are going to put the money up. But I have an ace up my sleeve, and it's the same one that I had with Synthogen. This stuff is going to have an immediate feelable effect. It's not like you take this for 3 weeks or a month, and then
and you're not sure. I think it's working.
Exactly. And here's the thing: these investors are athletes themselves. They lift weights. They may not be competitive bodybuilders. They lift weights, and a few are competitive triathletes. So these folks, they don't fool around. They need to maximize every bit of performance that a product can give for them. So they will not be easy customers to convince, but
right.
I'm convinced I can do it. So in concert with a few other well-researched ingredients, I am hopeful it can be done as a powder, because if I can do that, it'll be cheaper, right, to actually make, but it'll also be cheaper for the consumer
to buy,
as opposed to an encapsulated product. We get killed on the shipping, but look, it is what it is. It's hopefully a powder then will be a win all around for us, for the consumer, for everyone. One last thing. If for any reason that this product can't be done, and I do this with all of my stuff, I usually make the ingredients known to my BluePrint Bulletin subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be as convenient as the finished product, but it's certainly going to be doable. It turns out that the ingredient isn't really that expensive either. Somebody said that once about most of my suggestions in the newsletter. He's like, it's ironic, but these things don't cost a lot of money, the ones that work and work well. So long story short, I think we're going to have something to look forward to there. Next month, we talked last week about heat shock proteins. I found a natural compound that not only generates more heat shock proteins, but also helps them function more efficiently, let's say. This, like the other one, isn't really expensive, and I'm thinking in concert with using it in and around training may work, may work really well. We know it does the job. It causes more heat shock proteins to be made. What the body then does with those heat shock proteins and whether or not it can accelerate muscle gain and fat loss above and beyond normal is the big question. But it won't be a costly experiment, and that's important. So anyway, I wanted people to know there are more good things to come, right, for good people. So we have that to look forward to. And that's it.
I thought you were going to say that. I thought you were going to lead up and say the compound, because I know it's not a compound, but I thought you were going to say it's protein. If you eat more protein, you build more muscle and you burn more fat. Like, I was waiting for the shoe to drop. I was like, oh no, he's really talking about something. That's funny.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but when an ingredient is found that does all of these things and is commercially viable, it's exciting to me.
Yeah,
because nothing innovative is being done. It's the same branched chain amino acids, pre-workouts with caffeine and protein.
Yeah, no,
and it's been that way for 15 years. Terrible.
Well, there you go. So we'll wait silently and wait for something exciting. And that's it for today. We have good shows planned the rest of the week. Elisa's knocking it out of the park. I think tomorrow's show. Oh, wait a second. Right. So we have a couple really good shows coming up here. Hold on a second. I'll tell you what they're on. So tomorrow, we're doing the efficacy of glutathione therapy in relieving dyspnea associated with COVID-19 pneumonia with Dr. Richard Horowitz. That's tomorrow. And then I know Elisa just booked something for Thursday. Now, Thursday's my birthday, but I will be working. We have an interview. Dose response. Effects of dietary protein on muscle protein synthesis during recovery from endurance exercise in young men. We talk a lot about weightlifting here. We don't talk a lot about the stuff that stresses the cardiovascular system. Yep. This is Dr. Van Loon too. He's very, very popular. I've heard the name before. So that's going to be on Thursday. My birthday. Come join me on my birthday. Sit here and post happy birthday gifts so I can put them on the screen while I'm interviewing the scientist. He'll think, what did I walk into here? What's going on here? There's a birthday party going on here. That's what it is. All right, look, see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for your participation. Now I got to get after and figure out why audio doesn't go through when I put the cameras down. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for being here.